Hey guys, my name is Zach and I am a sophomore and I am majoring in film and video. Today we are going to be covering the topic of AI music, so let's get started. So to start off, we'll start off with a very important question. Why did I choose the topic of AI music? Well, I'm glad you asked. The main reason why I chose the topic of AI music is, well, because I just in general found it very interesting. The second reason being is that I have been experimenting with AI music for about the past year and a half. And the third reason being is that recently I've been using AI music to generate some background soundtracks for some of my videos, including this one. If you listen closely, the soundtrack you're hearing right now was also AI generated. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, but for simple video presentations like this one, it definitely gets the job done and it actually sounds pretty good. And before we move on to the next part of the presentation, I also quickly wanted to go over my argument. So, the argument I came up with for this is that AI music can both be good or bad depending on how it's used. Continuing on to the next part of the presentation, we will now be going over how this all began. This all began back in the summer of 2024. One day I was watching YouTube when a video randomly appeared in my recommended page about a Mario Kart Wii soundtrack being extended and continued by an AI. In this case, they used Suno AI for this particular video. And when I first listened to it, it's like, wow, this sounds really interesting. And for an AI, this sounds pretty decent. So I was like, why don't I give it a shot myself and see what this is all about? And thus, I found myself starting to experiment with Suno AI. I immediately after created a free account and just started messing around. And let's just say I was not disappointed with the first few results. If you would like to check out those videos, then feel free to navigate down to the description below where you'll find the links to them. But however, for the sake of time, let's continue on with the rest of the presentation. So for this part of the presentation, we will be covering the pros and the cons of using AI music. So to start off this part of the presentation, in my opinion, one of the biggest pros of using AI music is the ability to generate copyright-free music as your background soundtracks for your videos, just like this one. And it can be especially very helpful and useful. However, on the other hand, one of the biggest cons I see with AI music, based on my own experience, are the limitations of using AI music. For example, while I've been experimenting around with Suno AI, I've been starting to notice some inconsistencies with some of the generated tracks. As such, I've noticed that sometimes some generated tracks sound better than others, and some just sound downright like AI slop, while others sound very hyper-realistic. Another big con with AI music is, just like with any other AI service like ChatGPT or Google Gemini, for example, we tend to become too over-reliant on them, and that creates its own problems. However, the second biggest pro of using AI music is that if it's used correctly, it can become a wonderful tool to use for brainstorming and inspiration purposes. I have seen many articles of others out there who have used Suno AI for research and inspiration, and it ended up taking them a very long way to create their own works without relying on AI, which is quite an achievement within itself. However, AI music can make both positive and negative impacts on the music industry, which we will go over in the next part of the presentation. So now let's move on to the impacts AI music makes on the music industry. So probably the biggest positive impact AI music has made on the music industry was greatly contributing to the growth and revenue of the industry. And according to statistics, by the start of the third quarter this year, the music industry gained a record-breaking $5.6 billion in revenue. Another great positive impact that AI music has made on the industry is that it has motivated more people to become musicians. And the way they did this was by creating super engaging video advertisements that are supposed to reach out to average people who have had absolutely no experience in making music and saying, hey, there's a new way to make music and maybe you can learn something from it or become inspired from it. Now that we've gone over some of the most major positive impacts AI music has made on the music industry, now it's time to go the other route and see what negative impacts AI music has brought to the music industry. So, by far, one of the biggest negative impacts AI music has made on the industry is that, well, it completely devalues human creativity. And in the music industry, that becomes a major problem because without human creativity, there's no value in things like music. But however, that isn't the only concern with AI music. In fact, there are so much more concerns about AI music that there are too many to list in this video, so I'm only going over the most important ones for the sake of time. The second biggest negative impact AI music has made on the music industry is, well, real creators are starting to lose some of their revenue because most of everyone nowadays is starting to rely on AI music rather than real people. So instead of that revenue going back to real creators, it's now the AI companies that are earning that missing revenue, and that also is a big problem. And now, before we run out of time, let's move on to the final section of the presentation, which will be covering the consequences of using AI music. And just like with everything else, actions have consequences, and AI music is no exception. And by far, one of the biggest consequences you'll likely face when using AI music is copyright, and there are numerous reasons why. And we will start off by addressing the elephant in the room, which is using copyrighted content without permission. And this issue is a very big one, because in recent years, more and more copyright lawsuits have been filed. Case in point, one of the biggest examples of this in the AI music industry would be the case of big record labels versus Suno and Udio in June of 2024. Around this time, Universal Music Group, Sony Music, and Warner Music Group all filed lawsuits against Suno and Udio for alleged copyright infringement. According to various news media reports from the time, both Suno and Udio were accused of using copyrighted music from each of the three companies to train their AI models without a valid commercial license. Eventually, Universal Music Group and Warner Music Group both won the lawsuit, and they both settled for an undisclosed amount. However, due to the severity of the case and how big it was, the case between Sony Music and Suno and Udio was still ongoing, and it is still ongoing today. However, unfortunately, this wouldn't be the only time that Suno or Udio would be finding themselves in very boiling hot water. Fast forward to October 2025, and Suno is finding themselves being tied up into another lawsuit. This time by famous country star Tony Justice. According to various other news reports at the time, Tony Justice was suing Suno for stealing most of his songs and for violating the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or DMCA. However, unfortunately, very little information can be found about the case at this time, as it is still ongoing. According to other news reports, the verdict shall be made sometime in early 2026. As much as I would love to keep discussing about this topic, I think we are unfortunately at time for the video. And so with that, the works cited slide will appear in just a moment, but before that, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching, comment, like, and subscribe, and be sure to ring that little bell icon so you don't miss a new upload in the future. Until next time, this is Zach signing off.